that sounds like that will be happening all night. So thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's a very, very special Shabbat. This evening we're going to experience a Shabbat moment of listening to and allowing the lost voices of the Holocaust to enter into your hearts. Well, the musical voices of these rare violins that we see before us, they're going to be introduced by luthier, violin maker Avshalom Weinstein, and then played by Seville Weinstein and Colleen Deeker. Cantor Michelle and Colleen have created this beautiful service, and it's not a time like this that comes by very often. So enjoy every moment, feel every moment, take a breath and sit back as the music of these violins are once again going to speak to us and tonight truly enter into our souls. We begin with the lighting of our candles. I'd like to welcome back to all of us Helene Grabowski. Go this way. May the Shabbat candles that we now light inspire us to see justly and gently, look honestly with kindness, see what's holy in each other.
Kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
You'll stay just for another moment. The Birkat HaGomel, the prayers that we've put in all of the prayer books. The Birkat HaGomel expresses our gratitude for the miracle of healing, the full restoration to one's health. It's a prayer offered to family and friends and indeed full restoration of life itself. So on behalf of Helene, if you'd like to read this with me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu HaGomel l'chayavim tovot shegimalani kol tov. May God, who has bestowed kindness upon us, continue to bestow every goodness upon each of us and restore us to health. As we turn in our prayer books to page 4, the bottom of the page, Hine Matov, truly tonight, how good and pleasant it is for us to be together.
And it is so good that we are all here together on this Shabbat evening, and that we are here getting to hear the sounds of these beautiful instruments that may never have otherwise had the opportunity to be heard and held in the hands of a Jewish person ever again. How good it is to be here, Hine Matov. And please take just a moment to introduce yourself or to say Shabbat Shalom to someone sitting nearby.
Shabbat
Well, this evening we're going to hear amazing stories of these 8 violins that are before you. I'm pleased and privileged to introduce Avshalom Weinstein, a friend and also the storyteller of these violins.
So, good evening, everybody. How many of you came on Wednesday?
Okay.
Not too bad. You want to hear the same things again, or I'll try to do something new? So, the very first violin that we will hear, of course, we heard them all, is this violin. This is the violin that Max Becker played in the labor camps all around occupied Poland and Germany. The violin that basically helped him to save his life. Now, those of you who remember, his brother-in-law and my grandfather actually knew each other from Vilna. And this was a very small community. I mean, there were lots, of course. Many Jewish people played, many Jewish played classical music, but many of them, they knew each other, friendships. I don't know if my father knew Max Becker. We never found a program that both of them played together, but I do know that everybody knew Wolf Domarshkin, because when we did a project in Reading, Pennsylvania, there were 2 survivors, and one of them, she came specially to see the exhibit, and the first thing she asked me when she entered, she said, "Do you know the name Wolf Domarshkin?" I said, "Yes, I do." She said, "Good." He was a very known musician in Vilna before the war. She was also coming for Vilna. So this was a community. There were friendships, and my grandfather, when he immigrated to Palestine in 1938, he was later on the head of the Vilna Jewish Association, and many, many people came to my grandparents' house. He helped them with whatever he could. And I'll tell you a very short story about my grandfather. Last year, I did a small thing in Milwaukee because in September, we're going to start a very big project. And one of the people there, he is the leader of one of the best quartets in the world, the Fine Arts Quartet. He came to me and he told me, when I immigrated to Israel in the 60s, he came from Russia. He said, I had no violin, nothing. And people told me, they said, go to Weinstein, go to Moshe Weinstein, he will help you. So he came to my grandfather, and my grandfather asked, how do you play? And he said, well, I'm playing, I'm a violinist. My grandfather said, okay, gave him a violin. And the room my grandfather worked is about maybe this big. So the guy took the violin, started playing, and he told me, then I heard your grandfather on the phone calling the Israeli Philharmonic, saying to them, I found the violinist you were looking for. And he actually got the job. So this is a little bit about music life and the very small group of what it is to be a musician, and also a Jewish musician. Many of them knew each other, friendships, helped in many, many ways, and we still try to do the same.
As we travel now back to the 16th century to Tzfat, the Kabbalists at that time, Shalom Aleichem, page 8, as we're going to join with you.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharetz,
As the pilgrims were arriving in Jerusalem, they lifted their eyes to the mountains, as we arriving in Vail lift our eyes to our mountains. But they cried out, "From where does my help come?" My help comes from God, maker of heaven and earth. We continue page 12. The first time that I'd heard the tune of Lecha Dodi, it's found on page 16, that this particular tune, we were in Amsterdam in Anne Frank's synagogue. Never left my heart from that moment on. We're going to be singing that tonight, and we are introduced by some more of the violins.
So the next two instruments that we will hear, one of them was made by my grandfather's teacher, Yaakov Zimmerman from Warsaw. I know it's a little bit difficult to see, but you have the very small Star of David here, and later after the service, you can go through the table and you can see it. And yes, you can take photos if you want. My grandfather, before immigrating to Israel, to Palestine in 1938, he learned a little bit of violin maintenance and repair, and this is how he opened our workshop. In a way, it was one of the very first establishments in Israel, and if you're looking on the names of all the musicians that we have today, all the Jewish musicians, quite a few went through the workshop. When I saw Yitzhak Perlman a few years ago in a concert, he told me that he still remembers the day my grandfather came to him and gave him his first violin. He lived in the street behind the workshop. Now, any of you have seen the movie Yitzhak? Okay. The people from Birmingham, of course. So when they did the documentary about Yitzhak Perlman, they wanted to do something in the workshop. Now, I wasn't in Israel, and my father, let's say, he wouldn't come too early. So around 10:30 in the morning, my secretary calls me, she says, "Listen, Yitzhak Perlman is here with his documentary team. They really need your father here, but he cannot know that why he's coming so early." So I called my father. I said, "Listen, you need to go to the workshop now." He said, "Yeah, but I didn't do this and that. I didn't have breakfast." I said, No. Now, you have a client. He's waiting for you. Please, just go." "Yes, but..." And in the end, it took him about 45 minutes probably until he arrived to the workshop. But it did happen. And if you ever see the movie, there are a few scenes in the workshop and Yitzhak Perlman playing on one of the instruments. Now, the second violin is this very beautiful klezmer instrument with the Star of David. And you have to understand, the instruments we have in our collection, let's say, a violin like that I wouldn't even give to a student. This is very, very simple stuff. But this is what they had. This is what they could afford. This is what the Nazis led them to keep. This violin is dedicated to my grandfather and my grandmother, Chaya and Asoel Bielski, who were partisans, and they saved more than 1,230 Jewish people fighting for 3 years in the forest in Belarus. I did a project in Chicago a few years ago, and there was a survivor there. If any of you have seen the movie Defiance, they are talking about this tunnel that they were digging out from the ghetto. This actually happened. 250 people ran away from the ghetto and joined the partisans. She, her sister, and her mother were part of that group, and this is how they were saved. Now, when I was growing up with my sister, if we would ever go to my grandmother when we were 5, 6 years old, our bedtime stories at my grandmother's were stories about the partisans. I'm not so sure how much they would allow things like that today for such young kids, but we grew up not too bad. So the next song about on the Bielski and the Korngold Zimmermann violin.
rise, face the rear of the sanctuary as we greet the Sabbath bride.
Shalom, Ateret Bala, Gam Besimcha, Uvetzala, Tevemuni, Am Segula, Bali, Chala, Bali, Chala.
Be seated. Psalm 92, written by David, is called Mizmor Shir, and it talks about the importance and the idea that music should be played in the temple, as it was. And they talk about the music of the lute and the harp, the melody of the lyre. And he says that I will sing with my delight. Nothing could be fuller than what we have this evening, of the music that we have from the violins. Tzadika Tamar, the bottom of page 20. The sound from the temple. It was beautiful. Thank you. Well, we'd like to thank Mary and Stephen Carton and also Judy and Randy McKean for the beautiful meal that we had below coming into our service. And as we go back to 1921, to the Boston Globe, that was the time when there was a column called Dr. Crane Says. They're going to lead us responsively on page 23, just for today.
Just for today, I will live one day only, forgetting yesterday and tomorrow, and not trying to solve the whole problem of life at once.
Just for today, I will be unafraid of life and death, unafraid to enjoy the beautiful and be happy. People are as happy as they make up their minds to be.
Just for today, I will adjust myself to what is, and not try to adjust everything to suit me. If I cannot have what I like, I will try to like what I have.
Just for today, I'll be agreeable, cheerful, charitable, do my best, praise people for what they can do, not criticize them for what they cannot do. And if I find fault, I'll forgive it and forget it. I'll try not to improve nor regulate anybody except myself.
Just for today, I will have a plan. I may not follow it exactly, but I will have one. It will save me from worry, hurry, and indecision.
Just for today, I'll get people off my nerves and not get on theirs. Appreciate them for what they do and what they are.
Just for today, I will not show it if my feelings are hurt.
Just for today, I'll find a little time for quiet to relax, realize what life is and can be. Time to think about God and get a better perspective of myself.
Just for today, I will look at life with fresh eyes and discover the wonder of it. I will know that as I give to the world, so the world will give to me.
Thank you. Well, as we link ourselves to generations of our people, through the ages and across so many lands, as they prayed their words which we're about to hear and utter, they bequeath us their thoughts, their hope, and their faith. It's page 24 as we continue with our call to worship. Please rise for the Baruch Hu. Seated. You can also see behind us not only these 8 magnificent violins saved from the Holocaust, but our Taurus. That we have 2 of these that were also recovered, saved, and restored, that we take out at very special moments like this, certainly to honor these violins that are with us. We continue on page 30 at the top of the page and join with the cantor, Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod, Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, Bechol levavcha uvchol nafshecha, uvechol meodecha, vehayu hadvarim ha'eleh, asher anochi mitzavecha, hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam le'anecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha beveitecha, uv'lechtecha b'derech, uv'shachbecha uv'kumecha, ug'shartam le'ot al yadecha, ve'hayu letodavot b'neinecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, u'visharecha.
After the Israelites crossed the sea and now onto their free world, crossing the sea, they now look forward to a promised land, and they consider this next song of Micha Mochad really to be one of the oldest surviving texts. We continue on page 32 after an explanation of 2 more violins.
the next two instruments that we will hear, one of them belonged to Fanny Hecht. Fanny and her family were deported from the Netherlands, probably to one of the camps in the east. And like so many millions of Jews, they were told they can only bring a certain amount of things. Usually it was about 50 pounds. Many Jews would take their musical instrument because this was the most expensive thing they had and something that they could actually carry. Fanny, unfortunately, didn't take her violin. She left it to her neighbor that they used to play chamber music together, but she never came back. Fanny, her husband, and their two kids were all killed in the camps, and we got the violin from Mrs. Helen Weisser, who had the violin, keeping it for many, many years for the Hecht family to come back. Now, music was a very big part in the camps. We did, one of the very first concerts we've done was in Paris in 2006, I think it was. And one of the keynote speakers was Jorge Samprun, who was the cultural minister in the Spanish government after Franco. Jorge was sent to Dachau in 1936. In those times, the Nazis took political prisoners from all over Europe, especially from Spain. And he came on stage and he said, listen, you see these pages? This is the speech I prepared. But leave the speech, I'll tell you a story, he said. He was in the camps for quite a few years. Now, he was not Jewish, he was Christian. He was there for political reasons. And he said that there was only one day that he felt like a human being. He said it was a Sunday. It was a free day for him and his friends, and they were walking around the storage, and they found the violin, he said. And one of their friends played violin. He took the violin and he played a little bit for them, and he said that in that moment, that was the only moment he felt he was not in the camps. The second violin that we will hear belonged to Heinrich Haftel, who was one of the very, very, very first concertmaster of what was then the Palestine Orchestra, later on becoming the Israeli Philharmonic. I can tell you many things about this orchestra, but we will not do it today. But I'll tell you one thing. Huberman, when he saw what was going on in Europe in the 30s, he decided he wants to help Jewish musicians. Many musicians in Germany, when the Nazis got into power, they were thrown from their work. So his solution was to establish an orchestra in Israel. I'm sure many of you know that an orchestra makes lots of money, right? Tons of money. So he went to some friends. One of them was Albert Einstein, who was actually a violinist himself. They started going around, gathering money. Where? Of course, here in the United States. Where else can we go? And after having enough money, he established an orchestra. He did auditions to all the musicians with a curtain, because he said he didn't want to see the faces of the people he did not choose. He established the orchestra in 1935, but he didn't bring just the musicians. He brought all their family members, saving about 1,000 people altogether. Of course, the British were very, very nice in those times. They gave lots of certificates to come to Israel, right? But he had, again, another friend in the British government that helped him to get all the certificates. And in this way, he managed to bring 1,000 people to Israel and basically save their life.
remarkable to bring these violins back to life. Well, on this Shabbat evening, we seek peace and comfort. And shield us, O God, from hatred and destruction that plagues so many corners of our world, and console those in need. Shomer Yisrael, guardian of Israel, we call out to you with prayer for the return of the men, women, and children cruelly and heartlessly torn from their homes by Hamas, held in captive now in Gaza for 678 days. So may it be your will speedily and soon to bring them out from darkness and the shadow of death. Give continued strength to the IDF to deliver them from danger and back to the loving embrace of their dear ones. So may the verses of Isaiah ring true that those delivered by God will be returned, and they will enter Zion with everlasting joy. The Hashkivenu on page 34.
The next violin that we are going to hear, this is the violin which belonged to Violette Silberstein, the young girl from France who became a member of the women orchestra in Auschwitz-Birkenau under Alma Rosé. Now, music was a way for people to survive. Musicians were needed. The Nazis wanted musicians and music in the camps, and they treated them a little bit better than others. Usually the orchestras in the camps, they had to play in the morning for inmates to go to work, and in the evening when they had to come back. So they will be the last ones to go to work, first ones to come back. Some of them survived, some even continued playing. Violette never touched her violin since she went to the camp. This is the violin she learned on. This is not the violin she had in the camps. But she never played violin later. Now the rabbis, he mentioned that he heard one of the prayers in the Netherlands. Let me tell you a small story. Violette's son said that his mother was probably on the same train with Anne Frank going to Bergen-Belsen. He didn't know if they actually knew each other or anything, but I'll tell you something about one of the violins that we have. Any of you remember how Anne Frank's room looks? Yeah, you remember there are a few small photos of people cut from newspaper above her bed. One of them is of a young ballerina. And this girl, her name is, okay, now you see. I knew it 2 seconds ago, but it will come. Joyce van der Veen. Now, for many years, nobody knew who was that girl. Until one of Joyce's friends went to Anne Frank's room and said, "You know that your photo is above Anne Frank's bed?" She said, "No." They lived very close to each other. Joyce was a young girl. She was about 12 or 14 years old. She was a very successful ballerina, and she also played the violin. When the war started, after the Netherlands were occupied by the Nazis, one day they were gathering people around her street. She ran with her mother and sister. They were hiding in a small barn in the outskirts of the Netherlands somewhere, and this is how she survived. Later on, she immigrated to the United States on a personal visa from JFK and played in a movie with Ronald Reagan. Not too bad. But her daughter never knew anything about the violin. Until after her death, one of her students, Joyce's students, told her, he said, "You know, there is the violin here and there, and this is the story." She didn't know. So many people never, ever spoke about what happened to them. We lost their stories. We lost their history.
Okay. poet Achad Ha'am once wrote that more than Israel has kept the Sabbath has kept Israel. Israel being all of us, all the people. And when you think about the observance of Sabbath, that's what he was referring to. But he said for Shabbat, Shabbat is here, and that's what's keeping all of us together. That's what the prayer of Vishamru is all about, taken from the book of Exodus. How in 6 days the Lord created the heavens and the earth. The seventh day he ceased from his work and rested.
We have 2 more violins left. One of them will be a surprise. This is the violin which belonged to Roger Lanier, the French police officer, who helped lots of Jewish people to try and run away from Nazis, from the Gestapo. Now I'll tell you a very short story that a very good friend of my father told us. He also lived in the Netherlands. His father was a violin maker, and during the war, he was hiding a Jewish pianist in their house. Now the Nazis, they loved music. They played music all the time. They had lots of musicians in the camps and everywhere playing for them. And he told us that one night, one of the Gestapo officers came to his father's house, knocked on the door, and said, "Listen, we're going to have some chamber music tonight. Why don't you join us?" Because he was a cellist. He said, "You know what? Okay, fine, I'll come." And he said, "Bring the pianist you have underneath the stairs." She survived. It's his mother. There were lots of stories of people who were saved by non-Jewish people. Many of them were recognized. Probably many more didn't. But Roger, he's known by the Yad Vashem as righteous among the nations. We met his son a few times, and nobody knows, unfortunately, how many of the people that he had in his house survived. Because they never knew the names, they didn't keep a list. You couldn't do these things. Unfortunately, we will never know.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. איי 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 ביני ביני ובין ישראל אותי לעולם.
are those in our community who are in need of healing of body, mind, or spirit. If you have a person in your life in need of healing in just a few moments, please feel free to think about them in your hearts and offer the special prayer of Mishaberach. Full healing to Gail Balin, Sue Beiser, Robert D'Agostino, Blanche Deutsch, Chris Eldridge, Larry Ellens, Carol Ann Finn, and Sherry Frank, Barbara Goldberg, Deborah Goldman, Helene Grablowski, Mark Grablowski, and Lori Hellman, Mike Herman, Ronnie Hess, Jody Israel, Ra'e Ivri, Harriet Jaffe, Mary Sue Katz, and Herman Keek. Phil Krasnow, Judith Landau, Barbara Myers, Stephen Reese, Bruce Rogers, Joe Sellers, Bill Silvers, B. Sklarowitz, Kelly Soslin, Dina Stempler, Merle Steyer, and Alan Tannenbaum, Richard Taxman, Donna Weinstock, and Jerry Weinstock. How music can transform our lives and our prayers. Well, Talmudic sage once taught that if one prays only according to the precise word of the prayer book, but adds nothing from one's heart, the prayer is not complete. We continue the top of page 42, Adonai Sfatai, and then silently through page 57.
Please rise. Adonai Sfatai Tiftach Ufi Agi Tehilatecha Adonai Sfatai Tiftach Ufi Agi Tehilatecha.
Yes, face the other. That's fine. That's good. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O God. May be seated.
I was asked to tell a story about some of the experiences we had doing this project, Violins of Hope. So I'll tell you, when we first started, when my father gave the first lecture in 1999 in Germany, I can promise you he never actually thought it's going to be what it is today. Today we are doing lots of concerts, exhibits, lectures, concerts like you've seen on Wednesday. We do almost everything, but one of the most important things we are doing is the educational program. I spoke until today in front of about 300,000 students in places that I promise you, people who live in the United States have no idea where they are. When I did a project in Knoxville a few years ago, I saw about 25,000 students in 2 weeks. Trust me, I have no idea where I was. I was going in so many different places, so many different schools, no idea. But I'll tell you one thing about a project that we've done in Livermore, California. Anyone here knows where Livermore, California is? You see, not that many people. Anyone here was in Livermore, California? Okay, now I know why you know where it is. So we've done a very nice project a few years ago, running between the schools about, I think, I wasn't there for the whole time, but they saw about 40,000 students altogether. Now, we've done 3 concerts, and those of you who know Livermore, California, correct me if I'm wrong, you have Main Street, like every place in the United States, and then it's basically done. So behind Main Street, there was the concert hall. And after the last concert, it's about 10:30 at night, we are walking to the car with the person who organized everything, him, his wife, his son and fiance, and me. And a woman comes out from one of the restaurants, shouting, now, we are going to the car is parked on a dirt road. She goes like, are you Violins of Hope? I'm like, okay, that's going to be interesting. Yes, we are. I want to tell you something, she says. Okay. She said, you know, my daughter, she's probably something like 16 years old. Now, you look on the woman, she works as a waitress in one of the restaurants there. She says, the only thing my daughter cares about is TikTok. Any of you know what TikTok is? Some of you. Oh, yeah, you know. Of course you know. You're the right age. And she said, you know, last week, Tuesday, before she went to school, she said, Mom, we have this, I'm sorry for quoting, this stupid assembly in the school, but at least I won't have mathematics lesson. And her mother said, you know, when she came back that day, in the afternoon, the only thing she could talk about was the stories she heard. So many people ask me, are you making a difference? Tell you the honest question, the honest answer, I have no idea. But maybe we do, sometimes. So we are trying to do this educational program as much as we can. It's not easy, as you can imagine, especially in the United States, especially today. I can tell you many other stories about things that happened since the war started. We don't have that much time, right? But this is one very small story of something that I hope is important, I believe is important. The educational part, that we have to make sure that people know what happened, that people hear these stories of these people and hopefully learn, and that it will never happen again.
Thank you. Thank you. We continue with our prayer for peace. Oseh Shalom.
Oseh Shalom Bimroma, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael.
as we turn in our prayer books to page 60, we rise, Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, la'tet gedula le'otzer bereshit, shelo asanu kigoy haratzot, velo shamanu kamishpachot ha'adama, shelo sham chalkeinu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol havonam, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא והשב אותה אל לבביך כי הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
You may be seated.
Usually I'm not asked to do things, but today is a different day. So I was asked to talk about my father. How many of you worked with your kids? With your 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you might know what I'm talking about. How many of you worked with your kids and actually trained your kids from scratch? What do you do? Okay. Someone else was raising their hands here. Okay. I'm a violin maker. My father was a violin maker and he trained me. And when I was growing up, during vacations, I would go around with him to the accountant or to the shipping company. And trust me, shipping companies, it's not what it used to be. I'm dealing with the shipping to Israel for the last few months. It's supposed to happen next week. I'll believe it when the instruments will arrive to the workshop, not a second before. And everyone would ask my father because they knew my father. Many of them we actually worked with because they were friends of my grandfather from Vilna. Family history. And they would say, so is he the next generation? And my father always used to say, he has no other choice. I'll tell you honestly, I'm not so sure this is what I actually had in my head in those times growing up, but I loved going to the workshop. I loved working with wood, doing things. And if any of you ever are in Israel and you'll have a chance to come to our workshop, you'll realize that the amount of history inside this workshop is unbelievable. We talked about Yitzhak Perlman, but Shmuel Ashkenazi was a client. My grandfather sent him to one of his best teachers, Ilona Fer, which was a very good friend of my grandfather, and he pushed her to go to become a teacher. And a story that I just heard the first part of recently was why Pinchas Zuckerman plays violin. Do you know Pinchas Zuckerman? Do you know why he plays violin? That's true. So Pinchas Zuckerman's father was a klezmer. He was a good friend of my grandfather in Vilna. And his father survived playing in the camps. And he told me that his father, because he was a part of the orchestra, got an extra piece of bread a week. Could that be what saved him? Maybe. We will never know. Anyway, the war finished. Pinchas Zuckerman's father came to Israel. And when Pinchas Zuckerman was about 7 years old, one day he came with his father to the workshop. And my grandfather said, "So what does the child play?" And Pinchas Zuckerman's father said, "He plays clarinet." And my grandfather said, "Why?" And Pinchas Zuckerman's father said, "Because I don't have a violin to give him." So when Pinchas tells it, he tells it much better than me. He said, "And then your grandfather leaned back, took a violin, and gave me."
Wow.
And that was the reason why he started playing violin. Now, my grandfather couldn't support people with money, but he had a good friend who could, and usually he would take the kids to that guy. That was not happening that day. That happened about 3 months later, when Pinchas Zuckerman's father came back to my grandfather saying, "My son says the violin is not so good." Now, my grandfather, who was a very good violinist, he had his music stand in the workshop, we still have it, and he played every single day. So he said, "Bring the child." So sometime later, here comes little Pinchas Zuckerman, and my grandfather says, "What can you play?" What was the answer? Everything. So my grandfather took the music he had that day on the stand, opened it, and said, "Play." He got a better violin. And he got a better violin. And he went to my grandfather's friend who helped him with money, because you're talking about Israel in the 50s. Trust me, money nobody had, for culture for sure. But there were, because of friendships, you could have these things. And this is how so many kids grew up to be the players they are today. Coming from the workshop, going through the workshop, like Gil Shacham, Chagai Shacham, Shlomo Mintz, and the list goes on and on. And my grandfather started it, my father continued. I have some clients that I know them since they were about this size, this big. Once I did a project in, it was in Kentucky somewhere, in Louisville. And they said, "You know, there is a violinist who is coming, maybe you know him. Yoni Gendelsman." I said, "Of course I know Yoni Gendelsman. I know him since he was about this height." It's a very, very small world, our world. And the workshop in Tel Aviv, which was run by my grandfather, my father, and now me, it's a place that many, many people went through. And hopefully many, many more will go through. So, we're going to have more music.
Introduce your mom.
I need to, okay. So my mother is here. And I did talk a little bit, of course, about her parents, my grandparents. Unfortunately, my grandfather died before my mother was born, during the end of the war. I managed, after the partisans were released, he was forced into the Russian army, and later on he was killed. And like I told you, I spoke a few years, it's probably around 20 years now. I spoke to someone who served with him in the Russian army. Now, the Russian army, let's say they weren't that saints. We don't know what happened. I asked the guy, "What happened?" He said, "I'm not going to tell you. I can't talk about this. I don't want to talk about it. And probably, unfortunately, we will never know." But my grandmother stayed alive. I don't know who told this story to me, either my mom or my grandmother. After my mother was born and the war finished in 1945, my grandmother decided that living in Russia, not really what she wants. So she took my mother and her parents, and they started going west. And one time they boarded a train full of pigs, and probably they arrived to a border and there was inspection coming. And you know, a few months old babies, what do? What do babies do? Cry. And my mother couldn't stop crying. So my grandmother started kicking all the pigs around, and trust me, the pigs were screaming stronger. And they went through. Nobody found them. And there are lots of stories like that we heard as kids. Unfortunately, for me at least, not enough. But maybe we'll hear more one day. So again, thank you very, very much, and I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the program.
As David wrote the 23rd Psalm, he talked about, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, but will fear no evil. We're going to continue with Adonai Ro'i, the 23rd Psalm. At this moment, in memory of our loved ones who are no longer with us, we join hands in love and remembrance. The link has been broken in the chain that bound us together, yet strong bonds of home and love hold us one to another. In solemn testimony to that unbroken faith which links the generations one to another, we call to mind those whose yahrzeit we observe this month. Bobby Kaplan Feldman, Esther Gelman Brill, Frank Feldman, Stephen J. Feldman, Adele Abrams, Mark Albert, Charles Barrison, Jack Balin, Charles Becker, Shirley Belcher, Jules Braunstein, Howard Chapman, Ruth Cohen, Abraham Cott, Cantor Stephen Udubov and Harold Ehrlich, Marilyn Ehrlich and Richard Eisel, Lillian Ettinger, Irving Fielden, Jay Fishman, Beatrice Fligelman, H. Mitchell Fox and Samuel Frank, W. Scott Funger, Bernice Doris Garland and Fred Goldsmith, Jerome Heffer, Yvette Held, Emil Hess, Teresa Sosa, Eileen Joseph, Ida Kahn, Henry Kahn and Susan Kaufman, Saul Kaufman, Dorothy Keller and David Landau, Felix Landau, Sylvia Lantzman, Arthur Langsam, Erwin Leff and Joseph Lefkoff, Leo Levy, Samuel Levine, Philip Leibowitz and Ermi Lindenfeld Heller and Florian Linz, Beverly Lopatin, William Benjamin Marks, Michael Marks, Bernard Melvin Shapiro and Joanna Minnie, George Minnick, Pauline Morell, Robert Morris and Sarah Mossman, Claire Numeroff, Dorothy Nunick, Landau and Erwin Raymer, Martin Rosen, Lillian Rosenblatt, Leah Rothenberg, Shep Saperstein, Judy Schechter, Ernest Scheller III, Morris Shore, Edwin Aaron Schwartz, Zeke Siegel, Juliet Siegel, Murray Shane, William Sigmund, Donald Simon, Stuart Stein, and Donald Steinberg, Mitchell Stensler, Margaret Stringer, Wynn Tanchel, Leah Cretty Weems, Ken Weiner, Donna Winger, Pauline Wolf, and Julius Wolfen, and Gary Cohen. Our sincerest condolences to Bonnie Goldberg on the loss of her mother, Jane Zalkin. The mourner's Kaddish can be found in our prayer books on page 64 as we all rise. Those who wish may join with us as we say, Yitzgadal v'yitzkadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agalav v'zman kariv v'imramein. Yehesh me'rabba mevarach le'olamo me'omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran v'yalma v'imramein. Yehesh lama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imramein. Oseh shalom v'imromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imramein. May be seated. This time we'd like to invite a very special guest artist and teacher in our religious school, Will Hines. He'd like to come up and we'll have an explanation as to the opportunity to play on one of the 8 violins.
So I have the easy job of introducing the violin.
That's okay.
The violin that Will play is the violin which belonged to Feivel Wieninger, the person from Romania that by playing this violin managed to save 16 family members from the war. Now when kids hear about the Holocaust or about the war, they hear a lot about numbers. They don't really understand the numbers. When we do a lecture in the schools, when we go, we are talking about personal history, about people that they could have been their neighbors, their cousins, people they might have known from down the streets, and it gives a different feeling because you have a name, you can put a face, you can put a story, you can put a timeline of what happened to this or that person, to their family. It gives it a little bit of a different way. And like I said before, hopefully it helps. hopefully, we are making differences. We will see in the future.
Thank you. Israel has been going through a very hard time for a long time, but it will find hope at the other end of the day. So we're all going to rise now as a tribute to Israel and join together Hatikva. Nefesh You may be seated. As I said earlier this evening, there are moments like this that you can't repeat. We have them, we experience them, and they stay within our hearts. And we're so grateful for all of you who came, but even more so to Avshalom Weinstein. Thank you. Seville, thank you. And to Colleen Deeker, thank you on piano.
And it cannot be overstated how much work Colleen has put into these last two events. Arranging every single piece of music that you heard was arranged by Colleen.
And as we began to plan this a year ago with Cantor Michelle, so my thanks to you as well. And as soon as we said we're going to be trying to bring the Violins of Hope, we didn't know if we could, but you couldn't say no. This was wonderful that we were going to be bringing them immediately. Bernie and Helene Grublowski said, I'll sponsor this. For the many, many things that we have done over the summer, and we're not quite complete because next week we still have a great lunch, a bike ride, and a country western concert next Wednesday, not to be missed. If you don't ride a bike, come for lunch. If you don't like lunch, stay for the concert. But next Wednesday, it's a wonderful time. We have with us a country western Israeli star. Somehow we'll put that all together. Omer Netzer. He was an IDF medic known throughout Israel for his songs, including God Works in Mysterious Ways. So if you want to come next Wednesday, it would be wonderful. We also have the Book Havarav, the Israeli author, Guy M., and Sergeant Major of IDF. He's going to be coming on August 21st. If you can't come for the book club part, come to hear his story of the book that he wrote. We also, every single time we've had a program, and there have been many this summer, there are a couple people that always came before me, which is unbelievable. Roger and Carol Bloom, if you'd like to at least stand, and Janet will take this to you. Take it to you. If you'd like to come up here quickly. We just wanted to say thank you, and we really should be giving you a card for Starbucks for all these mornings you had to get up, but thank you. And we'll read on here that it says, Carol and Roger Bloom, with gratitude for your generosity and spirit, you've enriched the B'nai Vail family with endless love and dedication. Thank you. As we mentioned before, that Avshalom said, if you'd like to come and see these violins, this is not like going to a museum. This is like coming to shul. And for us to have had the privilege of you bringing these to us, opening up our hearts, our souls, and our minds to these stories of what was lost, but it's lost no more. So if you do choose to come up and not just crowd the front, we'll go around the side and then back down. If you want to come up, take some pictures, you're welcome to. This is really an amazing opportunity that we've all had. We're going to continue now.
We also have Machana B'nai Vail, and Hebrew school registration has just opened up. So please send me an email if you know anyone ages 1 to 13 that would like to be a part of our program that we have throughout the year. And whether or not you register, you can also come to our Rosh Hashanah painting event that is happening at the end of this month so that your piece can be fired and ready for Rosh Hashanah. So we'd love to have you be a part of that.
We're now going to continue with Kaddish and Motzi, and then a very special ending for all of you. So we'll have Helene, if you'd like to come up with Bernie. We thank you for the sponsorship and especially for your good health. We'll join with the cantor.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei puri hagafen l'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'tei avon.
Let's rise for a closing blessing. Adonai oz li'amo yitain, Adonai avarech et amo v'shalom. May the Lord grant strength to his people and bless all of us with peace. Shabbat shalom. This is great. Thank you. Thank you. Let's move this out of the way for the people.